Homage to fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to wisdom, warrior Manjushri, homage to all lineage benevolent masters. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in 1,000,000 eons. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, generate supreme bodhicitta. Next, we will discuss the merits of the Vajrasattva 100-syllable mantra. Regarding the 100-syllable mantra, most Dharma friends in our institute have recently completed the 100,000 recitations. If you haven't finished, please continue. Those who have completed it will start practicing mandala offerings in a few days. Today we discuss the 5th topic of the 100-syllable mantra, the merits of confession. Actually, true confession is extremely important. If we don't confess, when we will die is very difficult to predict. If we die before confessing the negative karma we created in the past, that would be especially regrettable. I remember that the way of the Bodhisattva also teaches, "Should my body perish before my sins are purified, how shall I be freed from them? Therefore, I pray for swift protection. If I die before my negative karma is purified, how can I attain liberation from the negative karma I created before?" So first pray to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions to quickly rescue me. Each of us should have this kind of thought. We should still try our best to complete the 100,000 recitations of the 100-syllable mantra. I always think this way. Some of us often say we created much negative karma in the past. In that case, you'd better do this before you die. When death comes, no one can predict. Whether young or old, it's really unpredictable. In this case, complete the 100-syllable mantra as quickly as possible. This is also one of the most meaningful things in human life. If one concentrates single-mindedly on the object of focus without mixing in ordinary speech and recites the 100-syllable mantra 108 times in one session, then all negative karma created in the past and all violated vows will definitely be purified. This is Vajrasattva's personal promise. So we must understand that if our mind continuously focuses on Vajrasattva and we recite single-mindedly without mixing, in other words, actually, when we practice Vajrasattva session by session, we should at least not speak before reciting 108 times. If we recite this way, our negative karma will definitely be purified. Purification of negative karma is not what ordinary people claim. This is what Vajrasattva himself said. Actually, the Vajrasekhara Sutra also teaches, even if one created various negative actions in past lives, including the 5 crimes with immediate retribution and all karmic obscurations, through the blessing power of this 100-syllable mantra, all karmic obscurations will be completely eliminated. This is the scriptural authority. If the karma we created before was very serious, by reciting the 100-syllable mantra single-mindedly, even the 5 crimes with immediate retribution can be purified, so I think each of us should not think that we might be especially pure with no karmic obscurations. We cannot think this way. We should confess properly. The Tantra of Immaculate Confession also says this. The 100-syllable mantra is the essence of all Buddha's wisdom, the quintessence of Buddha's wisdom. It can purify violated vows and karmic obscurations of conceptual thoughts. It can be called the king of all confessions. If one can recite the 100-syllable mantra 108 times in one session, it can restore all lost vows and prevent falling into the 3 lower realms. If any yoga practitioner can vow to recite this, not only will this person be protected by all Buddhas of the 3 times as their beloved child in this life. This person experiences this daily. If we can vow to recite 108 times daily, many in our institute also do this, reciting the 100-syllable mantra 108 times daily. In this way, all Buddhas of the 10 directions will constantly protect you, and after death you will undoubtedly become a child of all Buddhas and will not fall into the 3 lower realms. For us, this should be many people buy insurance, medical insurance, pension insurance, but pension insurance, no matter what, cannot help in the end when we still age. There's no way around it, so this can be said to be the best insurance for our future lives. Many people worry that they indeed created much negative karma in the past. In this case, try your best in the future to vow before death to recite the 100-syllable mantra 108 times. In the future, you will absolutely not fall into the lower realms. This is also an especially good thing for us. Moreover, after entering the door of Vajrayana Buddhism, whether violating root samayas or branch samayas, if one visualizes Vajrasattva daily and recites the 100-syllable mantra 21 times, this is called sealing the downfalls. That is to say, the karmic results produced by downfalls will not continue to increase. If one can recite 100,000 times of the 100-syllable mantra, all downfalls can be completely purified. If we recite 21 times daily, negative karma will not increase. This is called sealing the downfalls. If we recite 100,000 times of the 100-syllable mantra, whether it's Tantric vows, individual liberation vows, or Bodhisattva vows, all karmic obscurations centered on the 3 types of vows will definitely be purified. This point is also taught in the Tantra of the ornament of the Vajra essence. If one recites 100,000 times of the 100-syllable mantra, then all downfalls can be purified from the root. This Tantra also teaches this. If one can recite 100,000 times of the 100-syllable mantra, all downfalls and root downfalls, whether from Vajrayana or Sutrayana, will all be purified. This Tantra states, beautifully visualize on a white lotus moon cushion the venerable Guru Vajrasattva, following the ritual of the 100-syllable mantra. If one recites 21 times, it will seal downfalls and so forth, preventing them from further increase. This is what accomplished masters have declared. If we visualize Vajrasattva as we taught before, visualize Vajrasattva on a white lotus and moon disk, then follow the ritual, whether following illuminating the path to liberation, or the Nyingtik tradition ritual, or different schools traditions such as the Kagyu school. All schools in Tibetan areas have them, and Han areas also have recitation rituals. When reciting the flaming mouth ceremony, in the supplementary ritual at the end, there is also a tradition of reciting the 100-syllable mantra. By reciting the 100-syllable mantra according to ritual, complete purification can be achieved. If one recites 21 times, sealing downfalls will prevent their increase. This is what many great accomplished masters have declared. Therefore, one should continuously practice. If one has recited 100,000 times, one will definitely achieve pure nature. If we can truly recite 100,000 times, all karmic obscurations will be purified. In this way, some people think that practicing Vajrasattva's 100-syllable mantra seems to be only for hearing some tantric teachings or just to complete the numbers. This kind of thinking is wrong. We should realize that our karmic obscurations from beginningless time are so severe, and purifying them is extremely important. We have often said that among all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, Vajrasattva is, in worldly terms, the most specialized in purifying negative karma. We can say that relying on him, there is nothing that cannot be eliminated. Moreover, some scriptures even teach that seeing Vajrasattva's form in this lifetime or hearing his mantra has inconceivable merit. The King of Great Teachings Non-Dual Impartial Most Supreme Yoga Sutra also teaches, if a person hears the name of Vajrasattva and sees his form, in 7 lifetimes they will attain the supreme level. This is the scriptural authority. So if we hear the name of Vajrasattva or can see the form of Vajrasattva, within 7 lifetimes, the calculation of 7 lifetimes may vary according to different lifespans. Within 7 lifetimes, we will definitely achieve accomplishment. Therefore, whether we see Vajrasattva's form, photos, or other representations, people without merit cannot possibly see them. We hear his name, recite Vajrasattva's mantra or the 100-syllable mantra. This is also especially difficult to achieve. Therefore, reciting Vajrasattva's 100-syllable mantra is especially important for us. Previously, When His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche was receiving medical treatment in Chengdu, there was a person beside His Holiness who was he was a police officer assigned to protect His Holiness. He would daily read the words of my perfect teacher while reciting the 100-syllable mantra. He often said that in Patrul Rinpoche's The Words of My Perfect Teacher, the merits of the 100-syllable mantra are described as very extraordinary. Every time I read about the merits, I feel a strong desire to recite the 100-syllable mantra. He himself recited it daily. I was deeply impressed at that time because generally, people doing this kind of work also know they need to confess. So for us, as many monastics and some Buddhists, we think we might need to purify negative karma. But unfortunately, many worldly people today don't understand. Clearly their negative karma is very heavy, yet they still think they find it very interesting and successful. Some people keep talking about advanced teachings, but specifically things like the 100-syllable mantra and the 5 preliminaries are never mentioned. Even if mentioned, they consider these inferior practices. They think these are unnecessary for them. Actually, this is the greatest mistake most fundamentally if our mind stream has not been purified through confession and we haven't properly accumulated merit. Very high-level realizations may not necessarily be attainable for you. Even if attained, they won't be stable because your karmic obscurations are extremely severe. From beginningless time until now, including when you didn't believe in Buddhism, you definitely have countless negative karmas. Before these are purified, the visions of generation and completion stages cannot possibly appear in the clear mirror of your alaya consciousness, so we especially need to diligently use the white cloth of the 4 powers to vigorously wipe clean the dust and grime on our alaya mirror, various afflictive obscurations, habitual obscurations, and cognitive obscurations. After all this dust and grime is completely wiped clean, the all-encompassing inner and outer scenery can naturally and clearly manifest. Next it says, in this present era, in this land of Tibetan areas, among gurus, monastics, and lay people, both male and female, we can say there is not one who has never received empowerment. So there is no one who has not entered the door of Vajrayana. Everyone has already entered. This is how it is in Tibetan areas. Now I see that Han region Buddhists are basically the same. Regarding empowerments, everyone has a special curiosity and eager enthusiasm. No matter what, everyone goes as long as there's an empowerment. I think here there's no one who hasn't received empowerment except for those who just started learning Buddhism. All others have received them, but after receiving empowerment and entering Vajrayana, if one doesn't observe Tantric vows, one will inevitably face the consequence of falling into hell. You haven't protected the vows. Many gurus frequently give empowerments, but they never. It's okay, please sit down. It doesn't matter. Special permission. This is special treatment. How does it feel? If one keeps the vows, one can attain perfect Buddhahood. Apart from these 2 possibilities, there's nothing else. Going to hell, or if you properly keep your vows, attaining Buddhahood. If you don't properly keep Tantric vows, going to hell. Apart from this, there's no other way out. It's like putting a snake in a bamboo tube. The snake in the bamboo tube can only go up or down. Apart from this, there's no other way out. Omniscient Jigme Lingpa once said this in the Treasury of Precious Qualities. For those who enter Vajrayana, there are no destinations other than the lower realms or Buddhahood. Generally speaking, this is from a strict perspective. Of course, strictly speaking, after entering Vajrayana, one either truly achieves accomplishment or very likely goes to hell. There's no middle destination, no third path. This means it's impossible to stop somewhere else. Of course, later great masters in the process of explanation spoke only from a particularly strict perspective. Of course, after entering Vajrayana, one might not have particularly violated vows nor engaged in true causes for Buddhahood. It doesn't mean one must. This is just a relatively strict analogy. For us Vajrayana practitioners, this is very worthy of serious attention because Vajrayana's detailed classifications and numerous types of Tantric Samaya vows are extremely difficult to maintain. So when Venerable Atisha came to Tibetan areas, he also said, upon entering individual liberation vows, I was spotless, never violating any vows. Upon entering Bodhisattva vows, occasionally there were some violations. Upon entering Vajrayana, negative actions emerged continuously. Violations appeared constantly and repeatedly. Since even someone with such practice and realization as the Venerable Master experienced this, then for us today, with our extremely weak antidotes, lacking mindfulness and vigilance, we have neither mindfulness nor vigilance, not knowing the various types of downfalls, unable to distinguish between the 25 Tantric vows or the 5 vows of the Guhyagarbha Tantra or the 14 root Tantric vows, some can't even distinguish these types. The number of downfalls committed by such people is undoubtedly as numerous as raindrops, extremely, extremely many. So for us who have entered Vajrayana, I myself often think, I have also received many vows, including Theravada vows, Bodhisattva vows, and Tantric vows, and have received empowerments from many gurus, such as Kalachakra empowerment, Chetson Great Perfection empowerment, and many other empowerments from Kriya Tantra, Charya Tantra, Mahayoga, and Anuyoga. But actually, each empowerment indeed contains many different vows. In Theravada vows, there are so many precepts. In Bodhisattva vows, as we studied in ascertaining the 3 vows before, there are so many precepts. In this case, are all these vows I've received beneficial or harmful to me? Sometimes when I think about it, I myself become quite afraid. There are such times. Therefore, we should make a vow to constantly practice Vajrasattva and counteract these downfalls. From now on, at the very least, we should recite the 100-syllable mantra 21 times daily without interruption. This point is especially important. I especially hope that all of you present here, whether you study Sutrayana or Vajrayana, practicing the 100-syllable mantra for confession is especially important for everyone, generally speaking. In our Tibetan areas, I have taught this many, many times before, including this point. I myself can do it and have become accustomed to it. Since childhood, every morning when I first open my eyes, I begin Om Vajrasattva, reciting 21 times. Sometimes when reciting to 10 plus times, I fall asleep again. This happens too. Sometimes I don't know how many times I recited, then fell asleep, so I recite again. Such situations occur too. But indeed for myself, this small practice has always been a habit. I basically never forget it, except for extremely special circumstances. I won't forget it. I hope that all of you present here should also incorporate this into your daily life. Indeed, we have created much negative karma, not to mention when we didn't study Buddhism. But ordinarily, every thought and intention is nothing but negative karma. Such phenomena occur, including when we entered various vehicles, the individual liberation vehicle, Bodhisattva vehicle, and Vajrayana. If we violate the vows we've undertaken in these vehicles, both major and minor violations should be said to be extremely numerous. If we don't confess and just abandon them like this, then these negative karmas, for us, will still be the greatest obstacle to future liberation. So here the requirement isn't very high. Just recite 21 times daily. Patrul Rinpoche taught this is most important. Previously, when our Guru, His Holiness, also regularly taught the preliminaries, he emphasized this, including when I first heard the Great Perfection preliminaries from Khenpo Depa. I had just run out of school at that time, and the school also opposed it. My family was also not supportive like they are now. At that time, they were quite opposed. But at that time, I had great faith in Buddhism, and the first teaching I heard was the words of my perfect teacher. From that time onward, it basically became a habit in my daily life. Actually, this first teaching I encountered seemed to have a very special connection with me. Throughout my life, I have always regularly read the preliminaries, always carrying it with me. I also hope that many of our Dharma friends will always carry the preliminaries with them wherever they go, reading a few pages every day. In this way, I feel that for a practitioner, this is indispensable, as will be mentioned later in the text. If we ordinary people don't look at it regularly, we have a problem. After a few days, we forget, and after a few days, we change into another mindset. Our mindset changes constantly. Ordinary people have this difference. Our practice never becomes stable. While noble beings' faith in virtuous Dharma is especially stable, they absolutely never waver back and forth. Regarding negative actions, even if such thoughts arise, they immediately confess them on the spot, so we should have some skillful means to remind ourselves. If one has already mastered the pith instructions of generation and completion stages and through mindfulness, vigilance, and clear visualization has never violated any tantric Samaya vows, but because of frequently conversing, associating, and interacting with others who have violated root Samayas, or even sharing water from the same valley, one will also incur the fault of relative violation or implicated violation. According to the requirements of liberation in the intermediate state through hearing and some tantras, people who break their vows are extremely frightening and serious. We ourselves are very pure, having never violated tantric vows, etc., but it's very possible that we frequently associate and converse with those who have violated and broken tantric vows. Even strictly speaking, though this is completely impossible to achieve nowadays, if even one person breaks their vows in Larung Valley, the water of the entire valley cannot be consumed. This is taught from an especially strict perspective. But this cannot be done in practice, and indeed such phenomena often occur. So nowadays many people find it difficult to achieve accomplishment or have realizations manifest, partly because one's own negative karma is very heavy, obscuring one's Buddha nature, and another reason is the friends we associate with. Among them, some have indeed broken extremely serious vows. Associating with them indeed causes very great harm to one's own accomplishment. One becomes contaminated. Therefore, we must diligently confess and purify negative karma and obscurations. The Tantra of unspeakable meaning of confession also teaches this. Restoring lost vows, associating with those who have broken vows, teaching Dharma to those who are not suitable vessels for broken vows, not being cautious about those who have broken vows, one will inevitably be contaminated by their blasphemous negative influence. All obstacles of this life and obscurations of future lives, confess them with a heart that regrets one's own faults. We regularly recite this confession prayer, and this confession prayer explains the negative karma we need to restore first, frequently associating with people who have broken vows. This is very serious. Sometimes we might not discover it, and sometimes, although we discover that this person is indeed a publicly recognized vow breaker, perhaps publicly recognized as vow-breaking, otherwise, if they have just slight opinions about individual gurus, defining all such people as vow-breakers would present certain difficulties, but those who are publicly recognized and obviously so, those whom everyone, no matter from which perspective, would absolutely measure as such, especially among all tantric vows, those who have very serious conflicts with their Vajra guru, associating with such people, and those who have already broken tantric vows. Mainly what this confession prayer discusses is tantric vows. Teaching Dharma to those who have corrupted their vows. In our institute now, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche has always maintained this. Those who have broken serious tantric vows are not permitted to participate in any empowerment or tantric Dharma assembly. This has been enforced in our institute from its establishment until now. For example, if a person has serious conflicts with their Vajra guru, then they are not permitted to participate in any empowerment or any tantric Dharma assembly in our institute, deliberately teaching these people out of compassion, thinking, these are also sentient beings, they are also very pitiful. Come here, I'll teach you. No one else accepts you, but I can take you under my care. This approach is called teaching Dharma to unsuitable vessels who have broken vows and being contaminated by other vow breakers with their negative influences, etc. All these are obscurations of this life and future lives that must be openly confessed. In an assembly of monastics, even if there is only one person who has broken vows, all those present will be contaminated by their blasphemous negative influence. Specifically, Even if there are tens of thousands of people with pure vows, no matter how many years they practice, they will not succeed. So people who truly break tantric vows are indeed very serious. Some people indeed don't care at all. They completely oppose their guru, not only slandering, but deliberately creating various obstacles. Previously, they indeed received what we often call the three kindnesses from their guru, receiving empowerment, receiving tantric teachings, and receiving tantric pith instructions. From a guru who bestowed at least one of these three kindnesses, if they later deliberately, not just some mutual slight disagreement, for example, among us, including between gurus and Vajra brothers and sisters, there might be occasional disagreements due to various ways of handling issues, different opinions, slight arguments. These might occur regularly. This often happens among long-term volunteers as well. But generally, confession should not be delayed overnight. There's a certain time limit. If it goes past the night, confession becomes especially troublesome. Just like one drop of spoiled milk can ruin a whole pot of fresh milk, or one diseased frog can contaminate all the frogs living with it. The Tantras also teach this. Just as one drop of sour milk can spoil all fresh milk, one person who has broken vows can destroy all those who keep their vows. So in our tantric gatherings, even if there are tens of thousands of people with pure tantric vows, if one vow breaker participates, then the merit of the entire empowerment or all tantric dharma assemblies will be completely destroyed. Not only destroyed, but also contaminated with negative karma. So, in Vajrayana, we must pay special attention. Our institute has always enforced this principle, including every time we hold dharma assemblies. Those who have truly broken tantric vows and violated their samayas are all excluded after careful observation by the stewards. Not even one dharma assembly can be held. This is the reason. So everyone should pay attention. If previously you were not a vow breaker, but later, due to various reasons, you become a vow breaker, this is completely different from breaking Theravada root vows or Mahayana root vows. If you don't restore them and 3 years pass, this person has already become an enemy of the world. This is extremely terrifying. So we must definitely understand that people who have destroyed their vows cause very serious contamination to others. Not only that, even if a guru, great master, or accomplished practitioner cannot avoid being contaminated by blasphemous negative influences. For some great masters, contamination from vow-breakers is the most serious. To give an example, there was once someone called Lingje Repa, who was an extremely extraordinary great accomplished master, according to his history. Once in the Sari region, some spirits and demons created obstacles for him. At noon, the sun became hidden and invisible, and it turned into a pitch-black night with twinkling stars. At midday, the local mountain gods and earth gods deliberately played tricks on him, causing the entire sun to disappear before him, and stars began twinkling throughout the sky, creating such a scene. However, the venerable master unobstructedly came to the side of the dark red blood lake, began singing Vajra songs and performing Vajra dances. At that time, under his realization and inspiring influence, many footprints were immediately left on the stones, which can still be seen today. Although he was such a great accomplished master later, because a vow-breaking disciple came before him, he became contaminated with blasphemous negative influence, resulting in mental confusion and inability to speak, becoming mute. Later, this situation was very ominous. Indeed, such a great accomplished master could not be harmed by any other spirits or people. But after one vow-breaking disciple came before him, he was immediately contaminated with negative influences and eventually became mentally confused. So generally, for some elderly gurus whose health is not good, we must pay special attention at such times and generally do not allow close contact with vow-breaking disciples. Previously, when His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche was in his later years regarding this matter, we held many meetings and discussions. Later, when His Holiness was about 60 years old, his health also appeared not very good. Everyone was worried that such disciples might be harmful to His Holiness's health. We consistently tried to refuse some outside visitors because some disciples were indeed quite publicly recognized as vow-breakers. This still requires very careful attention. Previously, in the secret biography of Do Khyentse Yeshe Dorje, there was also an account. Once, he made a disciple jump from a 10,000-foot cliff. After jumping, not only did he not die, but he awakened his past life nature. At that time, Dokyense Yeshe Dorje said he was originally the reincarnation of Karma Lingpa, but because he was contaminated with negative influences, his wisdom could not be developed or awakened. So this time, through severe scolding, all his negative influences were eliminated, and only then could he manifest his past life wisdom. Such phenomena also occur. So in our ordinary daily life, this point in Vajrayana also especially deserves serious attention. Previously, among His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche's disciples, there was one who was very publicly recognized as a vow-breaker. When we were opening termas at Julong Sacred Mountain, that old man is still alive now. Initially, he heard many secret teachings like Kalachakra from His Holiness, but later he still deliberately slandered and created various problems. In Tibetan areas, he is especially publicly recognized as such, so generally, His Holiness's lineage disciples don't speak with him or associate with him. Once at a Buddhist conference, several representatives from our institute were there. Looking around, we discovered it was that person. That person still has a certain status in the local area, and the county had also invited him to the same table. There was another Dharma teacher beside me, and we only recognized him later. After recognizing him, we didn't dare eat and told the people beside us, "We have urgent important business. Sorry, we need to step out for a moment." Then we could only go out to eat noodles. We didn't dare stay even for a moment or speak with him. Indeed, people who truly break vows create very great obstacles to one's life and practice. Of course, in our daily lives, as I just mentioned, we can't say, "Oh, this one is also a vow breaker, can't contact them. That one is also a vow breaker, can't contact them." We can't say this. Vow breaking should be very public and especially obvious cases. Otherwise, it would be like, "Oh, this person." Of course, if some people secretly often slander their Dharma teaching guru or Tantric guru, associating with such people is indeed not good. Regardless, we have worldly ways of doing things in the world. From a worldly perspective, every life should manifest a harmonious society. From this perspective, we can say this, but from Vajrayana's uncommon perspective, when speaking from the level of vows or accomplishment, indeed, anyone who first relies on a guru, and this guru is also qualified, some so-called people who deceive many in the name of being a guru, whether this is truly a guru or not, may need analysis. This is hard to say. If one truly breaks vows, both oneself and others should pay attention. To be honest, it deserves attention. Moreover, the accomplished master Venerable Urgyenpa once said in his Vajra songs, "I, Rinchen Pel, a beggar of the snowland, can only be harmed by vow-breaking enemies. Only my guru can protect me." He said, "I, this yogi of the snowland of Tibetan areas." He called himself a beggar. His name was Rinchen Pel. I, Rinchen Pel, came to this world. And in my lifetime, the only ones who can harm me are vow-breakers. When vow-breakers come into contact with him, like the previous person, his own practice faces especially great obstacles in all aspects. This is one thing. Another thing. In this world, the only one who can protect me, who can truly protect me in this life and future lives, is my guru. So he used his entire life and experience to tell future generations that we should definitely pay attention to vow-breakers. Otherwise, it's possible that even great accomplished masters like them finally become contaminated with negative influences. How much more so for us ordinary people? Of course, regarding who can protect us apart from our guru, who in the three realms of samsara can save us? Just as taught in the way of the Bodhisattva, whether Brahma, Indra, or our parents and sages, no one has the intention to liberate sentient beings, not even in dreams, to save us with Mahayana Buddhist thought. Only our guru, after seeing through the true nature of all phenomena, teaches us the instructions of Mahayana and Sutrayana, Vajrayana. We recognize the faults of samsara and the merits of liberation. So the only protector is our guru, while those who can harm us are these vow-breakers. Therefore, if one violates Vajrayana Tantric Samaya vows, the transgression is extremely serious, and maintaining them is also extremely difficult. Those who do not examine their own mind stream and think they possess vows while developing pride ultimately accomplish nothing. Some people don't examine themselves at all, thinking they've received so many empowerments, even considering themselves some kind of Vajra guru. They think they're very great. In this case, they ultimately accomplish nothing and deceive themselves and others, as the Tantric texts also say. If the three gates depart even for a moment from the nature of the three mandalas, this violates Tantric vows. Strictly speaking, probably many of us should not be worthy of pride. Otherwise, some Tantric vows teach that one's three gates should constantly abide in Vajrayana's primordially pure mandala. If one departs even for a moment, this is also breaking vows. Partial breaking, not complete breaking. There are such teachings. From this perspective, people who never depart even for a moment from the primordially pure mandala are probably very difficult to find in today's society, so we ourselves should not be worthy of pride. Of course, after departing for a moment, does this make one completely a vow-breaker? This is not what's being said here. That's not the meaning. Obviously, Vajrayana's Tantric vows are extremely difficult to maintain. If classified in detail, there are no fewer than 100,000 types of vows. In the Lama Yangtik, there are specifically what are called the sequence of vows, the sequence of gurus, and the sequence of Ganachakra. These should be three oceans. Regarding the Lama Yangtik, don't you all buy it daily, including pirated books? After buying, you just look at it briefly. You look at the highest parts, but no one wants to maintain the vows. So when stewards teach discipline, no one wants to listen. But ultimately, those who don't want to listen often get expelled. When we teach about vows, no one likes it much, but there's no choice. Indeed, vows are also a kind of law in the world. So there are 100,000 types, including when divided by the guru's body, speech, and mind. The number of precepts is extremely numerous. Moreover, the transgression of breaking vows is also extremely serious. If transgressions are not confessed, one will meet misfortune in this life. Ascertaining the three vows also teaches this, meeting misfortune in this life. In future lives, one will be reborn in Vajra hell, a place of incomparable suffering. If one breaks vows and doesn't diligently confess, even in this lifetime, various misfortunes will appear, such as illness, short life, and many other inauspicious events. In future lives, one will be reborn in hell and experience immeasurable suffering. As the Tantras also teach, Vajrasattva will drink their heart's blood. Short life, much illness, loss of wealth, and fear of enemies. They will dwell long in the hell of ultimate torment, experiencing extremely terrifying and unbearable suffering. These people who break Vajra vows may not be visible to our physical eyes, but behind them are many Rakshasas, Yakshas, and spirits who begin drinking their heart's blood. After drinking their heart's blood, they will definitely become ill and also have short lives and much illness. Often, all their wealth will be completely destroyed and numerous enemies will appear. All kinds of inauspicious events will occur. In future lives, they fall into Vajra hell and experience suffering. Actually, people who guard their vows experience everything especially smoothly and perfectly in this life. Whatever they wish for comes to fruition. We can say their wishes are fulfilled. Therefore, we must constantly and conscientiously practice Vajrasattva and recite the 100-syllable mantra, confessing and counteracting all violations of vows and downfalls that we can remember or cannot remember. Ancient great masters also taught this. Initially, one should not be stained by transgression. Once stained by transgression, confession is extremely crucial. It's best, as taught in the Kalachakra Tantra, it's best not to be stained by transgression, best not to sleep lazily. If one does sleep lazily or becomes stained by transgression, confession is very crucial. If one confesses, then the negative karma of breaking tantric vows can also be easily purified. If one confesses Vajrayana is different from Sutrayana, confession can purify. In the Shravaka vehicle, if one breaks root downfalls, it's like pottery that cannot be restored once broken. Everyone knows that some pottery, once broken, cannot be repaired. breaking bodhisattva vows is like breaking precious items. After precious items are broken, they can be restored by skillful craftsmen. So bodhisattva vows can also be restored through spiritual teachers. Restoring bodhisattva vows is also possible. After violating bodhisattva vows, one can recite the sutra in 3 parts before a spiritual teacher and begin confessing. Through their conditions, it can be restored. Tantric vows are like precious items with slight dents. Without needing to find other craftsmen, one can tap it oneself, and immediately the originally dented area can be restored. By practicing deity yoga, reciting mantras, meditating in samadhi, reciting Vajrasattva and the 100-syllable mantra, through such confession, complete purification without remainder is possible. So tantric vows are, on one hand, still very frightening. One can be contaminated, but on the other hand, if we always maintain mindfulness and vigilance, confession is very easy. This point can be said to be its advantage. Some Theravada vows are indeed irreversible. If root vows are violated, there's no way to completely restore them in this lifetime, but tantric vows, even if such downfalls are committed, can later be purified through confession, especially through the particularly excellent methods in Vajrayana, such as visualizing mandalas and reciting deity mantras and Vajrasattva mantras. These can be used for confession. Of course, if one confesses immediately without hesitation after violation, purification is easiest. The longer time is delayed, the more negative karma increases. Tantric confession methods are still different from other confession methods. In Vajrayana, immediate confession, what requirement does our institute have? If 2 Vajra brothers and sisters quarrel or fight, it cannot go past the night. His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche always required this before, and now we can generally implement this. For example, if 2 Dharma friends quarrel today, of course some people can handle it well, but some people at the time might get angry and develop harmful anger, but later they still maintain mindfulness and vigilance and immediately go confess. From then on, they don't hold it in their hearts. This is Vajrayana's confession method, but some people might not be like this, not to mention Vajra brothers and sisters. Even before their Vajra guru, they hold a grudge in their heart continuously. Later, when they see them on the road, their attitude seems somewhat different. This also happens, but this might not necessarily be good for oneself. It doesn't necessarily harm the guru or other Dharma friends. For example, with 2 Dharma friends, one can immediately let go while the other cannot. The one who can let go immediately confesses to them, but if this person doesn't accept it, then since one has already confessed and let go, that's sufficient. But the other person might not harm others, they just harm themselves. Actually, whether anger or attachment, afflictions are the greatest culprits that harm oneself. We can say this, so here it teaches that the faster, the better regarding time. Confession also has certain limits. Once 3 years have passed, one exceeds the time limit for confession. Even if one confesses, purification cannot be achieved. We have also taught this before. Generally, confession before dawn is called violating vows. Reciting the 100-syllable mantra briefly before dawn. This is called violating vows. This means transgressing vows. Violating vows is easily purified. Not exceeding 1 month is called losing vows, the meaning of damaging vows. Through 7 confessions, purification can be achieved. Confession before 1 year passes is called exceeding vows, surpassing vows. This type is relatively difficult to confess. When confessing, one must make Ganachakra offerings with gold and silver, or give away one's children, or use all one's possessions for confession, and so forth. After 1 year, but before 3 years, confession is called destroying vows. This type can only be confessed with one's own life. After 3 years pass, this is not acceptable. The Tantra of the Array of Samaya also states that after 3 years, confession cannot be accepted. If after 3 years, a guru accepts this disciple's confession, both guru and disciple will fall into Vajra hell and experience the suffering of burning. There is a specific scriptural authority for this, so understanding tantric vows is actually very important. Otherwise, nowadays some people seek Vajrayana quite frequently, but regarding maintaining vows, they lack even basic concepts. They don't even have concepts of Theravada precepts. For such people, it would indeed be better not to seek empowerment. Once they seek empowerment for the future because they develop serious conflicts with Vajra brothers and sisters and don't confess after 3 years pass, and also completely break vows before certain Vajra gurus and don't confess after 3 years, then in this lifetime there will absolutely be no chance for restoration. Even if you go to confess, restoration is impossible. Regarding this point, our Guru, His Holiness, also previously conducted a special rectification among Buddhists in the snowland of Tibetan areas. At that time, our institute also clearly expelled quite a number of vow-breakers. Up to now, these people are still isolated. It's impossible for them to seek empowerments together with the monastic community. They exist in various places. So when we often go to other places, we must first understand, for example, if we want to organize a Tantric Dharma assembly together or participate in a Tantric Dharma assembly together, we must first see if there are any publicly recognized vow-breakers. If there are, then there's no way. Previously, during the Cultural Revolution, some individuals specifically denounced their root gurus. Later, there was also a specific group. Perhaps that group of people has now departed from this world, but later, due to various reasons, those who have serious conflicts with Vajra gurus and are also publicly recognized by everyone, such situations are absolutely not acceptable. Any tantric empowerments or practicing together is useless. It's best not to practice together. Moreover, for those who rely on mantra power and blessings to protect others, stopping hailstorms, eliminating epidemics, healing and saving people, helping children grow healthily, and so forth, people who accomplish both self and others' benefit are the same. To possess mantra power and blessings, one must purify speech obscurations. And for those who want to liberate sentient beings, some of our monastics want to go out to protect sentient beings and recite scriptures for others, stopping hailstorms. When hail falls, reciting mantras to immediately stop the hail, reciting mantras when epidemics appear. People who truly want to liberate sentient beings like this should first remove obstacles in their own speech. Speech should have a kind of mantra power. If you have mantra power, then you can do these things. The method for purifying speech. There is nothing more excellent than the essential 100-syllable mantra. If you want to recite scriptures and give blessings to others, your speech must definitely be pure. To purify speech, recite the 100-syllable mantra frequently. If you haven't recited the 100-syllable mantra, just blowing a breath or reciting for others won't necessarily take effect immediately. So diligently reciting the 100-syllable mantra constantly is extremely important. Patrul Rinpoche's Supreme Guru once said in a joking manner, "Those who want to protect others and enjoy offerings from devotees and the deceased must first have pure speech. To have pure speech, reciting 10 million 100-syllable mantras is absolutely indispensable." Why did he speak jokingly? Sometimes we often say this too. If you truly want to liberate sentient beings and go down to heal and save people, then you need to purify your speech obscurations. To purify speech obscurations, recite 10 million 100-syllable mantras. His guru spoke with underlying meaning on one hand, because at that time in Tibetan areas, there were quite many people who wanted to liberate sentient beings and enjoy offerings from devotees and the deceased. So if you want to become a teacher who truly performs liberation rituals and recites scriptures for others, you should first recite 10 million 100-syllable mantras yourself, not to mention 10 million. Some people keep reciting our 100,000, and after reciting for a very long time, the mark on the prayer bead still doesn't move. Many people find the 100-syllable mantra quite difficult to recite, but the merit is very great, so one must recite it well. Among His Holiness's disciples, many have already recited 10 to 20 million 100-syllable mantras. Some recited 10 million, some recited 20 million 100-syllable mantras. At minimum, they completed reciting 200,000 to 300,000. Here, 100,000 is our minimum requirement because many ancient practitioners had strict requirements. Perhaps they recited inaccurately or poorly, so to supplement such omissions in recitation, while the basic requirement is 100,000. Some recited 100,000, some recited 200,000. This is the minimum all lineage disciples of Venerable Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu recited 10 million Guru Yoga Padmasambhava mantras and 300,000 hundred-syllable mantras. This is basically the standard. Patrul Rinpoche was also like this, including His Holiness Jigme Punsok Rinpoche's guru, Tubga Rinpoche, who was always like this. Actually, some of us are really poor at recitation practice. If one can truly recite, it's not very difficult. Previously, when I had taught about 20 lessons of the preliminaries, an old Lama came to find me, a friend of my father. He said he had already recited 300 million Avalokiteshvara mantras in 17 years, and from then on he vowed to recite 100 million more. He found me again today and said he had completed his 100 million. I roughly calculated it's been less than 3 years, almost 3 years. When I had taught about 60-some lessons of the preliminaries, I mentioned this to everyone. He also told me then, "You must bless me. I've now recited 50 million, with 40-some million remaining. It's best if I don't die. If I don't die, I might be able to complete it in this lifetime." Because when he first made the vow, he had previously recited for 17 years and completed 300 million. When he was reciting the final 400 million, he was 79 years old. I see this year he should be 82. He told me today, "Could you spare some time on the 10th or 2nd day of the month?" It seems he might vow another 100 million. Does he have 3 years of life remaining? If he has 3 years of life, he can complete it. And he said himself that he recites very clearly, sleeping only slightly at night. Except for eating, he continuously recites Avalokiteshvara mantras day and night. So actually, if we humans sometimes have true diligence, not to mention 100,000 hundred-syllable mantras, reciting many mantras presents no difficulty. But for some of us, 3 years pass especially quickly. And in many aspects like reciting scriptures, practicing and studying, we might be quite scattered. Everyone should think about how others recite. I've mentioned this before. There was Geshe Lama Konchog who did retreat for 16 years in the Himalayas. He should have recited 1.2 million hundred-syllable mantras and 1.5 million prostrations. Later, when he manifested parinirvana in 2001, many relics appeared. Many international Buddhists and news media paid special attention to this event. Guru Vajrasattva is the nature that gathers 100 families into one, called the Great Secret Single Family Vajrasattva. All the vast, boundless and inconceivable peaceful and wrathful deities are also included within Vajrasattva. Actually, if one practices Vajrasattva, all deities can be concentrated within Vajrasattva's essence for practice. Because the essence is visualized as inseparable from one's root guru, it also encompasses Guru Yoga and can be called the jewel-like unified meditation method. You are both practicing Guru Yoga and practicing Vajrasattva, and moreover, all other vast ocean-like peaceful and wrathful deities can all be practiced through Vajrasattva. We say 100 families. Among all these other deities, Vajrasattva is the unique assembly of all 100 families. So when we teach the Guhyagarbha Tantra, how all Buddhas of the 10 directions emanate from and gather into Vajrasattva's essence is specifically described. For example, one Buddha Vajrasattva can manifest countless Buddhas, 1,000 Buddhas, 10,000 Buddhas, 100,000, 1 million, all Buddhas of the world. From one Buddha Vajrasattva, they can emanate and be included within one Buddha. Within this, all traditions, such as Kalachakra, Guhya Samaja, all great perfection lineages, are all included within Vajrasattva. So when we take Vajrasattva as the object of our practice, this teaching is extremely profound, an exceedingly profound and ultimate teaching. As mentioned earlier, among mantras, there is none that surpasses the king of mantras, the 100-syllable mantra. Therefore, we should understand that there is no teaching deeper than this anywhere. Vajrasattva is indeed extremely profound. We could probably teach for 2 or 3 classes going into slightly more detail. But somehow, recently, I keep feeling that finishing the preliminaries quickly would be better. I have this feeling, so perhaps I'm moving a bit quickly. In my mind, there is still much wisdom that I haven't been able to express due to time constraints. Having heard beneficial pith instructions, yet clinging to words and phrases, practicing slightly, yet deceived by distractions, for myself and sentient beings confused like me. May we receive blessings to attain the essence of generation and completion. Here, finally, this is spoken as a concluding verse, although we have heard extremely meaningful teachings, including various pith instructions centered on Vajrasattva for purifying karmic obscurations due to our especially inferior mind streams. We still cling to words and phrases without actually practicing. The 100-syllable mantra is so excellent. When first hearing about it, everyone probably thinks, oh, I should recite it well. But after class ends, it drifts away with the wind and disappears. Even slight practice is lost to mindfulness and vigilance due to various karmic afflictions in daily life, and various distractions have deceived us, preventing perfect actual practice. So Patrul Rinpoche says, sentient beings like me who are especially confused are quite pitiable. May the essential teachings like the 100-syllable mantra practice of generation and completion stages truly arise in our own and others' mind streams. This requires the blessings of all Buddhas and lineage gurus and the protection of Dharma protectors for our practice to truly succeed and be completed perfectly. The guidance on purifying karmic obscurations through meditating on Guru Vajrasattva is complete.
Bandara Bandara